How about, I think this one might be interesting for you. How about Lori? She, her, the concept of our energy living on after we pass away.
Yeah, let's take that one.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
Hi. I'm okay. How are you, Matt and Kelley?
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah, I became an atheist just recently. About a year ago, almost a year ago, I walked away from Christianity at 65 years old. So you can teach an old dog new tricks, that's for sure. But anyway, a friend of mine was talking about energy and saying that your energy has to move on somewhere else after you die. And then I was a little confused about that. I just said, no, that's when I die, I'm fertilizer. That's all I think I am. And then I saw some, I'm glad I got a science guy here. I saw somewhere where energy cannot be created or destroyed. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little confused about how that works.
Okay, I feel like I can at least answer that one. So, yes, energy cannot be created or destroyed. However, what happens is energy can be transformed from one form to another. So I can convert gravitational potential energy into kinetic energy when I drop something. So I pick something up and then drop it on the bench. That's me doing that. And so that energy will live on beyond me dropping an object on the bench, but it's already been transferred to other things. There's nothing inherent to the item I dropped that retains that energy. And I think that's where I guess the confusion around this comes from. So within physics, when you talk about that, you'll measure energy in joules. It's very, very specific. It's very well defined. And so I think you have to sort of walk this balance between what people actually mean when they say that in a physics context and then how that can be interpreted outside of that. And I have definitely seen a lot of sort of pseudoscientific claims that use that to be like a part of your essence will live on. But the issue I see with that is that's not very well defined. And going to what you said about being worm food, yeah, that is your energy living on. As we live, we need to eat to survive. That's us consuming energy to keep the processes going. But as I sit here, as Kelley sits here, as Laurie, you sit there, we have cellular respiration going on. We're converting the chemical energy from our food into, amongst other things, heat and kinetic energy as we move. And so the energy is being transferred all the time. It's being transferred from one form to the other, but you can't just create that out of nowhere. When you pass away, when you stop living, the processes of that ongoing to keep your body running stop, but that energy that was contained in you when you pass out has to go somewhere. And so that's why in the movies, when they say, oh, how long has this person been dead? They can put the hand on them and say, oh, they're warm, so they died recently, because some of that energy is still there. It hasn't dissipated. And one of the things that is probably very interesting to think about it is entropy, which the very, very simple and I'd say oversimplified definition is sort of randomness, or like measure of randomness or chaos. I don't really like that one. It's about usable energy. It's about where does the energy go? And well, at least like the energy gradients. So if you're going to think about whether a reaction will occur, or a chemical or physical process is going to occur, you do need to consider that as well. I don't know, is that starting to answer the question? I don't want to go too deep into end up in giving a lecture on the laws of thermodynamics if that's not going to cover. Is that helping a little bit?
Yes, it is. And yeah, that was complicated for me, but
I want to add something else too, if I can, Lori. You can't destroy energy, but you can store it. And a lot of people forget about that. And I'm assuming that this person you were talking to was maybe saying that that's proof that there's a soul, because the energy can't be destroyed. So that energy has to go somewhere, right? And they're not thinking about energy in the way that it actually is in this instance. And Matt brought it up, is that you are now becoming energy for the worms to eat, for the plants to fertilize themselves. You're just transferring your life energy to the life energy of other beings who are now feeding off of what was your body. So the energy that is being, the energy doesn't dissipate. It doesn't get destroyed. It is being passed on. Does that help?
And I just want to caveat, when you talk about life energy, we're talking about things like the chemical potential energy, or the heat that you have stored in you, is not some, as far as physics is aware, there isn't some life force. Although it does bring up an interesting thing. The term organic used to mean chemicals that had this life force, because before we had a better understanding of how chemistry works, they used to think that there was actually a physical difference between biological chemicals, ones used in biology that had some life essence, versus inorganic stuff, which was the stuff you'd find around, say you'd find in a rock or in like in dirt or seawater, versus what you'd find out of a person. And one of the first cases where they realized that was wrong was when it was the artificial synthesis of urea. It was the first biological chemical to be manufactured that had nothing to do with actually coming from biology. And so it's going back a long way. But since then, we've realized, no, you can recreate a lot of things if you have the right chemical makeup, if you have the right energy. So I just want to make it clear, there isn't some magical life energy. It's energy that allows the processes of life to occur. And if that sounds very mechanical or very much like, oh, it's just chemical processes, I think that, one, it kind of is, and two, it's oversimplifying just how complicated these processes are. If someone comes along and can prove that there's some life energy, then yeah, one day I'll look forward to reading about that. But as far as we can tell, there's nothing that points to that.
Okay. I'll probably have to listen to this over again a couple times. But yeah, I mean, he's a believer. He's a believer in Christ, but he also believes in reincarnation. And that was where he was coming from, that we do live on after we die. And I just knew that wasn't true, but I didn't know why it wasn't true, so.
That's, I kind of had a feeling, because when I said that about the soul, I have a very evangelical Christian friend who I've had the same exact conversation with, that he thinks that the idea that you don't destroy energy proved that the soul was real, because your energy had to go somewhere, right? But it's...
I might try one more thing that I'm hoping will help, is whenever someone presents, because energy can't be created or destroyed, but to have energy transfer from one to the other, you need a process. You need a mechanism or a procedure that allows that energy to move. So when I was mentioning, say, dropping an object, so if I drop the glasses case, that's, I've put energy into it by lifting it up, and then I can get that gravitational potential energy back by dropping it. And when we're talking about, if you're thinking about something like reincarnation, the issue is there is no process to take the energy that you'd lost when you passed and move it into a new version of yourself, or I guess specifically what the person is claiming. So even if you don't understand all of the physics, if someone's going, at least to me, if someone was going to try and convince me that there is, they would need to provide me with a pathway, a mechanism for how you can take that energy and transfer it into a new person and still somehow retain, I guess, a memory, and I'll use that term fairly loosely to hopefully cover what we're doing here, of that original person. So it's all about the procedure, like what is the energy change rather than the energy itself. I can have a system that has a lot of energy in it and it can be absolutely useless to me. And I can have a system with very little energy, but I can get all of that energy out. That's more useful. If you think about batteries, that's the whole point. I don't know. Does that help a bit? And so energy is a very, very complicated topic. And I still remember back to second year uni when we started learning about thermodynamics in chem, and that was a 8 a.m. lecture that gave everyone a headache for the rest of the day. This is a topic that people who've been studying science for years still struggle with.
Okay, well, at least I don't feel so bad then. But yeah, that has helped. Like I said, I'll probably have to listen to it, a couple times to really let it sink in. But that answers my question. I don't want to think I'm going to come back, because got to tell you, I do not want to come back. I've had enough.
Oh, the other thing too is that one of the things that makes life so valuable is that it's finite. We have a limited time, so we have to make the most of it. And yeah, I think I would say that, yeah, I wouldn't want to come back, but for maybe different reasons. More of I guess it's more of a I am content with not coming back. If that makes sense.
Me too. When it's done, it's done. I lived a good life. At least I hope I did. And yeah, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your help a lot.
Okay, well, very great hearing from you, and hopefully listening back helps. And if not, I'm sure you're welcome to call back, and we can further the discussion, whether it's with myself or with someone else. I know Kelley's fairly good at this sort of thing as well, or the science of it. But anyway, I need to curtail me talking about science. Otherwise, I won't shut up, and you'll have me talking about thermodynamics for 6 hours, which I'm sure would be to everybody's delight and excitement. But yes.
I do the same thing with rocks. Don't get me started on rocks, because I'll do exactly the same thing. So I understand. So thanks, Lori, for calling in. Like I said, that was what helped me with my friend, was explaining that, how the energy of our body was actually used afterwards. Like, again, feeding other things. So maybe if you explain that to him, it might help, hopefully. But then again, sometimes with people who are really, really stuck on their ideas, there's nothing you can say to them too. So
I just thought one analogy that might help is if I detonate a nuclear bomb, that energy's been released. It hasn't been destroyed. Now, I have converted some matter to energy, the E equals mc squared for anyone who is more familiar with that. But that doesn't mean that setting off one nuclear bomb reincarnates a second nuclear bomb. That energy's already been transferred. And if you want to argue that processes that we understand like that, which use that same law of energy conservation, if you want to argue then when someone dies it's different, then you have to explain and describe why it's different.
Well, that's a great way to explain it. Just because you put out one fire doesn't mean another fire starts, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's simple. That's something I can wrap my head around. Yeah.
Awesome. That was a great explanation. All right. Now, hopefully we helped you out a little bit there, Lori.
Oh, you sure did. It was causing me confusion so much. I mean, but yeah, that has helped me out.
All right. Thanks for calling. I'm gonna move on to. We have some more calls I'd like to get to, so I'm gonna get rid of you, which I don't really want to get rid of you, but I do have more calls to take. So I want you to have a good night, and feel free to call back in.